Imagine a life where your mind is no longer clouded by the relentless noise of stress, self-doubt, and overthinking. Picture yourself stepping away from the shackles of grudges, toxic comparisons, and the ceaseless chase for external validation. This is not merely an ideal, it is a transformative possibility deeply rooted in Buddhist teachings. In today's exploration, we delve into 7 powerful habits that keep our minds bound in unnecessary suffering and how to release them. These habits are universal struggles, but Buddhism provides timeless wisdom to help us address them. Through this journey, we'll uncover not just the philosophy, but also practical steps, real-life examples, and inspiring stories that illuminate the path to a freer, more peaceful mind. Habit 1. Overthinking. The silent thief of peace. The nature of overthinking, a global struggle. Overthinking is often likened to a hamster running endlessly on a wheel. It expends tremendous energy, but gets nowhere. This pervasive habit manifests differently for each person. Some may ruminate over past conversations, replaying them endlessly, wondering if they could have said or done something differently. Others may obsess about future scenarios, worrying about outcomes they can't control. Buddhism identifies this mental tendency as a form of dukkha, or suffering, arising from attachment to thoughts. Overthinking amplifies problems, distorting their reality, and creates a cycle of stress and anxiety. It robs us of the joy of the present moment, chaining us to hypothetical futures or unchangeable pasts. Why do we overthink? At its core, overthinking stems from fear and a desire for control. We analyze and reanalyze situations, believing that if we just think hard enough, we can predict or prevent unwanted outcomes. This illusion of control, however, is futile. Life's inherent unpredictability means no amount of overthinking can shield us from its uncertainties. In modern times, overthinking has become even more pronounced due to information overload. The constant barrage of news, social media, and competing opinions can leave our minds in overdrive, trying to process and make sense of it all. Buddhist teachings on overthinking. The Buddha taught that overthinking creates suffering because it pulls us away from the present moment. The concept of mindfulness, or sati, is central to overcoming this habit. Mindfulness involves fully engaging with the here and now, observing thoughts without attachment or judgment. The Buddha used the metaphor of a clear, still pond. When overthinking, our minds become like a turbulent pond, muddy and unclear. Mindfulness helps calm the waters, allowing us to see with clarity. Practical steps to overcome. Overthinking. Breaking free from overthinking requires consistent effort and mindfulness practices. Here are actionable steps inspired by Buddhist teachings. Pause and observe. When you notice your mind spiraling, pause and take a deep breath. Recognize that you're overthinking without judgment. Say to yourself, I see my thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. Focus on the present. Use your senses to ground yourself in the moment. What can you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch right now? This simple act pulls you out of your head and into the present. Limit what-if scenarios. Acknowledge that hypothetical situations are just that, imaginary. They don't exist in reality and only serve to fuel unnecessary anxiety. Create a worry window. If your mind insists on worrying, set aside 10 to 15 minutes a day to think about your concerns. Outside this window, remind yourself that it's not worry time. Practice mindful meditation. Spend a few minutes each day sitting quietly, focusing on your breath. If thoughts arise, acknowledge them and gently bring your attention back to your breath. Real-life example, a story of transformation. Emma, a university student, was plagued by overthinking about her grades and future career. Each decision felt monumental, and she often lay awake at night replaying scenarios in her mind. After attending a mindfulness retreat, Emma learned the importance of staying present. By practicing mindful meditation daily, she discovered that her grades improved, not because she overthought every detail, but because her calm, focused mind allowed her to study more effectively. Expanding the perspective. Cultural and historical insights. Overthinking is not a modern phenomenon. It's a universal human challenge recognized across cultures. Ancient Buddhist texts refer to papanka, a Pali term meaning mental proliferation. This describes the tendency of the mind to generate endless streams of thought, often leading to confusion and suffering.
Historically, Buddhist monks in meditation retreats were trained to quiet their minds through practices like anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and vipassana, insight meditation. These practices are as relevant today as they were centuries ago, offering timeless tools to counter overthinking. Overthinking and emotional health. Chronic overthinking can lead to emotional burnout, anxiety, and even depression. It creates a feedback loop. The more we overthink, the more stressed we become, and the more likely we are to continue overthinking. Breaking this loop requires a conscious effort to interrupt negative thought patterns. Breaking free. Lessons from nature. Nature offers profound lessons in simplicity and presence. Consider a flowing river. It doesn't pause to analyze every rock or bend in its path. It simply moves forward. By observing nature, we can learn to flow with life rather than resist it with excessive thought. A mantra for peace. In Buddhism, the use of mantras or affirmations can be a powerful tool to calm the mind. One popular mantra is, "Let go, be here, breathe deeply." Repeating this during moments of overthinking can help redirect your focus. Conclusion. From chaos to clarity. Overthinking is a deeply ingrained habit, but it is not insurmountable. By practicing mindfulness, embracing impermanence, and trusting in the natural flow of life, we can free ourselves from the grip of overthinking. Remember, clarity arises not from analyzing life's every detail, but from embracing its simplicity. As you work on letting go of overthinking, you'll find that life becomes less about solving endless puzzles and more about savoring each beautiful moment. Habit 2. Holding grudges. A poison you drink yourself. Understanding the nature of grudges, holding a grudge can feel justified, even empowering in the short term. After all, we've been wronged, betrayed, or hurt. Why shouldn't we cling to our anger? But over time, this sense of righteousness becomes a heavy burden. Grudges don't harm the person who hurt us. They harm us. They sap our energy, cloud our judgment, and tether us emotionally to painful experiences. Buddhism teaches that clinging to negative emotions like anger, resentment, or hatred is akin to holding onto a hot coal intending to throw it at someone. It is we who get burned. Grudges represent an attachment to the past, one of the core sources of dukkha, or suffering. Why do we hold grudges? Grudges often stem from a natural human desire for justice or retribution. When we're wronged, our ego demands acknowledgement of the harm done and, sometimes, restitution. In some cases, the pain of betrayal or injustice feels so deep that we believe holding on to our anger is the only way to protect ourselves from further harm. However, Buddhism reminds us that this clinging to anger only prolongs our suffering. The illusion of control makes us believe that holding a grudge keeps the offending party accountable, but in reality, it only keeps us chained to the very source of our pain. The cost of holding grudges. Emotional toll. Grudges create a cycle of bitterness and negativity, leaving little room for joy or peace. They make it difficult to cultivate loving relationships or experience genuine happiness. Physical consequences. Studies have shown that prolonged anger and resentment can increase stress, elevate blood pressure, and weaken the immune system. Mental burden. Carrying a grudge consumes mental space, leaving less energy for creativity, problem-solving, or emotional resilience. Spiritual impact. Buddhism teaches that resentment blocks our capacity for metta, loving-kindness, and karuna, compassion, which are essential for personal growth and spiritual freedom. Buddhist teachings on letting go of grudges. The Buddha emphasized that forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional burdens that bind us. Forgiveness is an act of self-liberation. The parable of the two monks. In this well-known Buddhist story, two monks encounter a river where a woman asks for help crossing. One monk carries her across while the other disapproves. Hours later, the second monk says, "I can't believe you carried that woman. It's against our vows." The first monk replies, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This parable illustrates how clinging to resentment weighs us down unnecessarily. The concept of impermanence. Buddhism teaches that everything in life is impermanent, including our emotions and the actions of others. Holding on to anger is futile because the circumstances that caused it are constantly changing. Karma and compassion. The Buddha taught that each person acts based on their own karma, influenced by their unique life experiences. This understanding can help us develop compassion for those who hurt us, recognizing that their actions often come from their own suffering. Steps to let go of grudges. Letting go of a grudge is a process that requires mindfulness, intention, and practice. Here are some steps to help release resentment. Acknowledge your pain. Avoid suppressing or denying your feelings. Acknowledge the hurt, anger, or betrayal you experienced. Practice empathy. Try to understand the perspective of the person who hurt you. This doesn't mean excusing their behavior, but recognizing that they may have acted out of ignorance, fear, or pain. Engage in loving kindness meditation. A core practice in Buddhism, metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation, involves sending thoughts of love and well-being to yourself, loved ones, and even those who have wronged you. Over time, this practice softens anger and fosters forgiveness. Write it down. Journaling can help you process your emotions. Write a letter to the person who hurt you, not to send, but to express and release your feelings. Focus on the present. Grudges keep you trapped in the past. Mindfulness practices, such as focusing on your breath or engaging with your senses, can anchor you in the present moment. Seek closure within yourself. Forgiveness doesn't require an apology or reconciliation. It's a personal choice to release the grip of anger on your heart and mind. Real-life example: the power of forgiveness. Consider the story of Thich Nhat Hanh, a revered Vietnamese Buddhist monk. During the Vietnam War, he witnessed immense suffering and loss, including the deaths of close friends and family. Yet, he chose a path of peace and forgiveness. His teachings emphasize that anger and hatred only perpetuate suffering, while forgiveness leads to healing and transformation. Thich Nhat Hanh's story illustrates that even in the face of profound pain, forgiveness is possible. By letting go of anger, he became a global advocate for peace, inspiring millions. Cultural and historical context. Forgiveness in Buddhism. In Buddhist cultures, forgiveness is often integrated into rituals and traditions. For example, Uposatha days. On these days of observance, Buddhists reflect on their actions, seek forgiveness from others, and offer forgiveness in return. Kathina ceremony. This is a time of generosity and reconciliation, fostering a spirit of letting go. These practices underscore the importance of forgiveness as a communal and individual act of renewal. Transformative perspective. Forgiveness as self-care. Letting go of a grudge is not about absolving the other person. It's about reclaiming your peace. Forgiveness is an act of self-compassion. By releasing resentment, you create space for joy, love, and personal growth. A simple exercise to release a grudge. Sit quietly and take a few deep breaths. Visualize the person who hurt you. Say silently or aloud, "I release you from my anger. May you find peace, and may I find peace." Repeat this daily until you feel a shift in your emotions. Conclusion. Freedom in forgiveness. Holding grudges keeps us tethered to pain, while forgiveness sets us free. It is a gift we give ourselves, not the other person. By releasing anger, we open our hearts to compassion and create space for emotional healing. As you work to let go of grudges, remember that forgiveness is a journey. With each step, you lighten your emotional load, moving closer to a life of clarity, peace, and freedom. Let the wisdom of Buddhism guide you in transforming resentment into compassion, and watch how it transforms your life. Habit 3. Quit comparing yourself to others. The thief of joy. Understanding the nature of comparison. Comparison is deeply ingrained in human behavior. From a young age, we are often encouraged to measure ourselves against others, whether in school, sports, or social settings. While healthy competition can inspire growth, constant comparison often leads to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and even resentment. This habit is exacerbated in the modern world, where social media presents an endless stream of curated highlights from other people's lives. Buddhism teaches that comparison arises from attachment to ego and a misunderstanding of self-worth. The Buddha emphasized that each person's journey is unique, and comparing oneself to others distracts from the pursuit of inner peace and personal growth. Why do we compare ourselves to others? Comparison often stems from societal conditioning. Success, beauty, and happiness are frequently portrayed as external achievements, wealth, fame, or physical attractiveness, rather than internal qualities like compassion, wisdom, or contentment. This creates a perpetual cycle of comparison, where we measure our worth against arbitrary standards. Fear of missing out, FOMO, and the desire for validation further fuel this habit. When we see others achieving milestones or experiencing joy, it can trigger doubts about our own path, making us question if we are enough. The cost of comparison. Erosion of self-worth. Constantly measuring yourself against others diminishes your confidence and self-esteem. It creates a sense of inferiority, even when your accomplishments are significant. Loss of gratitude. Focusing on what others have blinds you to your own blessings. Comparison shifts your perspective from abundance to scarcity. Emotional turmoil. Envy, jealousy, and resentment often accompany comparison, leading to inner conflict and dissatisfaction. Disconnection. Comparison fosters competition rather than connection, making it harder to build meaningful relationships based on mutual support and understanding. Buddhist teachings on comparison Buddhism teaches that comparing yourself to others is a form of attachment, as it ties your happiness to external circumstances rather than internal harmony. The Buddha often spoke about the futility of measuring oneself against others, as everyone walks their own unique path. The concept of samadhi, Right view. Right view is the first step in the Eightfold Path, emphasizing the importance of seeing life clearly. Comparison clouds judgment and creates false narratives, while right view encourages self-awareness and acceptance. The parable of the poisoned arrow. In this story, a man is struck by a poisoned arrow. Instead of seeking immediate treatment, he demands to know who shot the arrow, their background, and their motivations. The Buddha uses this parable to illustrate how distractions, like comparison, prevent us from addressing what truly matters, our own growth and healing. Anatta, non-self. The teaching of non-self reminds us that our identity is not fixed or defined by external factors. Comparison stems from a mistaken belief in a permanent self that must be better than others. Steps to quit comparing yourself to others. Breaking the habit of comparison requires mindfulness, self-compassion, and intentional practices that focus on your own journey. Here's how to start. Practice gratitude. Begin each day by listing 3 things you are grateful for in your life. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have. Focus on your own path. Instead of comparing your progress to others, compare it to your past self. Celebrate the steps you've taken, no matter how small. Limit social media exposure. Social media often fuels comparison by showcasing idealized versions of life. Set boundaries on your usage, or curate your feed to include content that inspires rather than triggers. Embrace your unique journey. Reflect on your individuality and the experiences that have shaped you. Recognize that your path is unlike anyone else's, and that this uniqueness is a source of strength. Engage in Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation. This Buddhist practice involves sending thoughts of love and well-being to yourself and others, including those you might envy. Over time, it fosters compassion and diminishes feelings of comparison. Real-life example: the transformation of comparison. Consider the story of Alex, an entrepreneur who constantly compared his business to those of his peers. Each success he achieved felt overshadowed by someone else's larger accomplishment. This mindset left him feeling perpetually inadequate, despite his hard work. After attending a mindfulness workshop, Alex began practicing gratitude and self-compassion. He shifted his focus from competing with others to improving his own business. Over time, he found joy in his journey and developed meaningful connections with fellow entrepreneurs by supporting their successes rather than envying them. Cultural and historical context. Comparison in Buddhist texts. Buddhist scriptures often highlight the dangers of comparison through parables and teachings. For example, the story of Kisa Gotami. Kisa Gotami, a grieving mother, sought the Buddha's help to bring her dead child back to life. The Buddha asked her to find a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. As she searched, she realized that suffering is universal, and her comparison of her pain to others' lives was unfounded. This story teaches that everyone faces challenges, making comparison irrelevant. Shifting perspective. Comparison as inspiration. Instead of viewing others' achievements as threats, see them as sources of inspiration. Buddhism encourages mudita, or sympathetic joy, which is the practice of finding happiness in others' success. When you cultivate mudita, you transform envy into joy, deepening your connections and fostering a sense of abundance. Practical exercises to stop comparing daily affirmations. Write or say affirmations that celebrate your uniqueness, such as, "I am enough just as I am." Mindful observation. When you notice yourself comparing, pause and observe the thought without judgment. Redirect your focus to something positive about yourself. Journaling. Reflect on moments when comparison has impacted you. Write about how you can reframe those situations with gratitude or self-compassion. The bigger picture. Why comparison is futile. In the grand scheme of life, comparison serves no purpose. Each person has a unique set of circumstances, talents, and challenges. What appears as success on the surface may come with unseen struggles. Buddhism teaches us to view life with equanimity, accepting the highs and lows without attachment or aversion. Conclusion. Freedom from comparison. Quitting the habit of comparing yourself to others is one of the most liberating steps you can take toward inner peace. When you stop measuring your worth against external benchmarks, you open the door to self-compassion, gratitude, and genuine contentment. As you let go of comparison, you'll find that your journey is enough, beautiful, unique, and deeply fulfilling. With each step forward, you'll discover that the only competition that truly matters is with your past self, and every day is an opportunity for growth. Habit 4. Quit saying yes to everything, preserving your energy and peace. The nature of overcommitment, saying yes to everything, often stems from a desire to please others or avoid conflict. While helping others is a noble intention, overcommitting drains your energy, limits your ability to focus on personal goals, and eventually leads to burnout. The Buddha taught the importance of moderation and respecting one's limits, emphasizing that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Why do we say yes too often? Fear of disappointing others. Many people feel obligated to agree to requests, fearing they'll let others down or appear selfish. Desire for approval. The need for validation can push us to take on tasks, even when they conflict with our well-being. Avoidance of conflict. Saying yes may seem easier than explaining why you can't, especially in situations where you feel pressured. The cost of saying yes to everything burnout. Overcommitting leaves little time for rest, self-care, or reflection, leading to physical and emotional exhaustion. Resentment. Constantly agreeing to tasks can foster feelings of resentment toward those who ask, straining relationships. Loss of focus. When you say yes to everything, you often neglect your priorities and personal growth. Buddhist teachings on balance and boundaries. The middle way. The Buddha emphasized the middle way, a path of moderation that avoids extremes. Saying yes to everything represents an imbalance that disrupts harmony in life. Right intention. Part of the Eightfold Path. Right intention encourages mindful choices aligned with your values and well-being. Compassion starts within. True compassion begins with self-care. By preserving your energy, you can offer genuine help when it's most needed. Steps to break the habit: pause. Before responding, take a moment to assess your capacity and whether the request aligns with your priorities. Set clear boundaries. Communicate your limits kindly but firmly. For example, "I'd love to help, but I can't commit to this right now." Practice saying no. Start small, declining less critical requests, and gradually build confidence in setting boundaries. Real-life story. Saying no with Grace Sophia, a teacher, often felt overwhelmed by volunteering for every school event. After learning about Buddhist teachings on balance, she began setting boundaries. By prioritizing her well-being, she found she could contribute more meaningfully to the causes that mattered most to her. Transformative perspective. Saying yes to yourself. Saying no to others is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect. Each no creates space for meaningful yeses to your passions, health, and personal peace. Habit 5. Quit relying on external validation. Rediscovering your inner worth. The illusion of validation. Seeking external validation feels satisfying momentarily, but creates a cycle of dependency. Whether it's likes on social media, praise at work, or compliments from friends, relying on others for self-worth makes your happiness vulnerable to external factors. Why do we crave validation? Conditioning. From childhood, many are taught to seek approval from parents, teachers, and peers. Fear of rejection. External validation often feels like a safeguard against rejection or failure. Societal pressures. Social media and cultural norms amplify the need for external affirmation. The cost of validation dependency. Insecurity. Relying on others for worth leaves you feeling inadequate when recognition is absent. Anxiety. The constant need for approval fosters stress and fear of judgment. Loss of authenticity. Chasing validation can lead to choices that prioritize others' opinions over your own values. Buddhist insights on inner worth. The concept of anicca, impermanence. External validation is fleeting. Recognizing its impermanence helps shift focus to lasting sources of self-worth. Self-compassion. The Buddha emphasized treating oneself with the same kindness offered to others. Right view. Developing a clear understanding of your inherent value eliminates the need for external affirmation. Steps to cultivate inner validation practice. Affirmations. Write affirmations that reinforce your worth, such as, "I am enough just as I am." Detach from social media. Limit your time on platforms that reinforce the need for external approval. Focus on growth. Shift your mindset from seeking validation to embracing personal improvement and authenticity. Real-life example. Letting go of external approval. David, a musician, used to measure success by the number of likes on his videos. After studying Buddhist teachings, he began focusing on his passion for music rather than audience reactions. This shift brought genuine joy and fulfillment to his work. Habit 6. Quit dwelling on the past. Embrace the present moment. The weight of the past, dwelling on the past, often involves regret, guilt, or longing for what once was. These emotions tether us to events that no longer exist, preventing us from fully experiencing the present. Why do we dwell on the past? Unresolved emotions. Lingering guilt, anger, or sadness can keep you anchored in past events. Desire for control. Replaying events is an attempt to fix what cannot be changed. Attachment. Nostalgia for a perceived better time fosters resistance to the present. Buddhist teachings on letting go. Impermanence. The past is gone, and clinging to it creates suffering. Embrace the fluidity of life. Mindfulness. Focus on the present moment, observing thoughts about the past without attachment. Equanimity. Accept both positive and negative past experiences as part of your journey. Steps to release the past. Acknowledge the past. Recognize its role in shaping who you are, but avoid letting it define your present. Focus on gratitude. Reflect on the lessons and blessings of past experiences without clinging to them. Engage in mindfulness practices. Meditation, journaling, or mindful breathing can help redirect your focus to the present. Habit 7. Quit being afraid to let go. Find freedom in release. The fear of letting go. Letting go often feels like loss of people, possessions, or beliefs. This fear arises from attachment and the illusion of permanence. Why is letting go difficult? Attachment. We tie our identity to external factors, fearing that losing them means losing ourselves. fear of the unknown. Letting go can feel like stepping into uncertainty. Grief. Releasing something often involves mourning its absence. Buddhist wisdom on letting go. Non-attachment. Detachment doesn't mean apathy, but accepting change without resistance. Trust the process. The Buddha taught that life is a constant flow. Resisting it only creates suffering. Steps to let go: identify attachments. Reflect on what you're holding on to and why. Practice non-judgmental observation. Observe your fears and emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Embrace change. View letting go as an opportunity for growth and renewal. Real-life story. Finding strength in letting go. Elena, a widow, struggled to release her grief after losing her husband. Through Buddhist teachings, she reframed her loss as a chapter in her life, finding peace in cherishing memories while embracing new possibilities. Conclusion: breaking free from limiting habits. By quitting these habits, overcommitting, seeking validation, dwelling on the past, and fearing release, you create space for peace, clarity, and joy. These Buddhist teachings guide you toward a life unburdened by unnecessary suffering, allowing you to embrace the beauty of the present moment.